being recorded. Jenna, could you maybe reach out to our two missing panelists?
Yes, we're just missing one. I think we're just missing Janelle.
I'll text her. I'll text her right now. You know what? I'm sure she's going to join. She had a call right before this, so we'll just go ahead and get started. I talked to her last night, so. All right. Well, once again, here we are. Myself, Jen Sampson, Grants Chair, and I'm here with the Grants Interest Area panelists, and we're speaking to this lovely black hole of a webinar. And I can't see any faces, but I can see all your names. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get started. Okay. Just percent. I'm not seeing it. So welcome to our ballot overview and Q&A. This year we have pushed our ballot up a little bit to give our grants committee a little free time on the end of this process, but also to let our nonprofits know just a couple weeks sooner than later that they'll be receiving some money from us in May. So just a reminder, Idaho Women's Charitable Foundation fosters educated philanthropy through collaboration, pooled resources, and individual giving to positively impact the community. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into the crux of today. Just our agenda, just a little bit of meeting housekeeping. We are on a webinar, which means, I know many of you are familiar with that, but that essentially means that you can't, we're not seeing your face and you can't talk per se. But if you have questions, we'd like you to use either the Q&A function in Zoom or the chat. Either way is fine. Jenna and I are both looking at that. That's a great way to communicate. Everybody is muted. You will be able to see the presenter and also the PowerPoint. The purpose of today, another meeting housekeeping, we are recording this. So this is definitely be viewable after today, and then the slides will be available as well. So if you want to reference them at any time, you can. Essentially what we're presenting to you is what's going to be on the ballot. So I'm going to give you a little bit of overview of 2021, what we saw, the grants that came in, and then we'll go ahead and do an overview of grant proposals going to the ballot. We'll be doing it reverse alphabetical order because cultural arts always goes first. And so we decided to switch things up a little bit this year. And then we'll just end with a really quick next steps and talking through, our thank yous and moving forward. Again, if you have questions, use the chat, use the Q&A, please at any time, don't hesitate, don't wait, we got you covered. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. This year we received 93 proposals in December, which equated to over $2.5 million requested by nonprofits in Southwest Idaho. They represented all 11 counties. For those of you that don't know, this year the grants ballot included Camas County, which we had not previously included, but it was kind of a missed county in between here and Wood River. So the grants committee, and it conducted 23 site visits in February. There's 12 organizations that are going to the ballot. We'll have at least 6 winners and we'll award at least $180,000. We had 72 members of IWCF participate in our grant cycle this year. Before we really get started, I wanted to just say, it was literally 1 year ago that we really pivoted literally to going online. And I don't think at the Q&A last year, it was our first thing as IWCF that we did as a webinar. It was really our first Zoom. I think we all thought, oh, it'll be one and done. We don't have to worry about this for a year. And here we are 12 months later. So I don't need to tell you how to log into Zoom or how to get your password. We're all pretty proficient at that. But we've had some real silver linings on the grants committee because of having to kind of look at things through a different lens. We had a lot of people who were able to participate that maybe normally wouldn't have been able to just because they don't drive, or they're out of town, or it's just they're at work and it's easier just to log in and view something after it's happened. So, there's some silver linings. We had really good outreach with our nonprofits via Zoom, which I think kind of surprised all of us. All of our site visits, but 2 were done over Zoom. And, I think it's just a statement to how steadfast and sustainable the grants process at IWCF is. I mean, we do great work. We have a great criteria. And this year we were really able to just look at some really great proposals. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone, the 2021 ballot will have 2 choices in each interest area. We'll have an extra question to find out if we have some additional money, which interest area you would like us to see funded. We've done this every year, so this should not be new to those of you. The ballot will go out Monday, March 15th, and it will go for 2 weeks. So please make sure you see it, make sure you vote, make sure you tell a friend to vote. We always have such good turnout on our ballot, and we'd like to keep it that way. As we go into this, it's a hard decision, because for every organization that applies for a grant, they are all doing the best work in our community. And for those of you, I was talking with the panelists ahead of time, that if you're a nonprofit and you could get your resources together to apply for a grant this year, and your doors are still open and you're still out there pounding the pavement, you're special, and you're doing really good things in our communities. Our ballot at IWCF isn't necessarily to say that one nonprofit is not better than another. What we're looking for, with our collective funds, is we're looking for what is the best project for the time. So that's what the interest areas have spent the last couple of months doing, is they look through the projects and they talk to the nonprofits. They've really done the incredibly hard task of whittling down probably the 12 best projects for this moment in time. So that's what you're about to hear about. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get us going. So I'm going to turn it over to Trin. She's going to talk about. No, it's not. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Ball. Sorry, I've got you mixed up on my sheet. She is going from the rural communities. She's going to talk about family health services. And so go ahead, Chris.
Okay. My name is Chris Ball. I'm part of the Rural Communities Committee. We had some awesome people this year, but we narrowed it down to 2. And the first one was the family health services in Camas County. This year was the first year Camas County was included. This particular group was super excited to see us, and we just fell in love with them. They're very passionate about what they do, serving their small community, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's really between Mountain Home and Sun Valley. If you take the Mountain Home exit to Sun Valley, you will pass Fairfield, which is the town of Camas County. So what this project is a twofer. The first one is behavioral health counseling, which they currently do not have. And the second is an intraoral dental sensor, which allows them to take digital x-rays in Fairfield. They have a dental clinic there, but they do not have any capability of dental x-rays. So they're asking for both. One would cover the salary for the mental health counselor for the first year, and the second is just for the sensor itself. This is a rural health community, and they're capable of funding the projects once they get going. What they do not have ever is the capital to start a new project or buy equipment, which is why they applied to us. I forgot to set my timer. Trying to keep it under 4 minutes. So the next slide would be the compelling aspects that we found with this organization. First of all, this grant would impact almost every family in Camas County, and rarely do we have the opportunity to impact an entire county between the behavioral health and certainly the X-ray. I'd also like to throw in that they received last year 1,000 visits from low-income families from the Sun Valley area, because there's no low-income healthcare services or dental services in the Sun Valley area anywhere. So all of these families come over to Fairfield. The counselor they would like to hire has been a school counselor there for years and is retiring from the public school system. She's a known member of the community who lives there and trusted, which for behavioral health services, even though this has been requested for several years by the community, it can have a stigma for independent small towns. And this is a person who lives there. She has an in with the kids, and that's where they will be starting this project. They will focus on the kids with the idea that then the parents would come and then the larger community would also come. So we're funding her for her first year while her clientele is being built up, and then they will be able to self-sustain following that. And the next slide. Like I said before, it's a double impact. We have counseling service and dental, and we're impacting 2 counties, Camas County and the whole Sun Valley, Blaine County area as well. The X-ray will provide uninterrupted access to affordable and efficient dental services. They pay by sliding scale based on their income. They also can charge private insurance if the patient has private insurance and federal insurance like Medicare, Medicaid. Otherwise, they have to drive down to Twin Falls in order to get any X-rays, which is a 2-hour round trip. Same for the behavioral health. If anybody wants to access behavioral health right now, they have to drive 2 hours round trip every appointment. There are no dental services or medical services beyond this community health service for this county that is for low income or no income. There's currently no behavioral health in the area for low or no income or no insurance, I should say. So again, Twin Falls would be the closest. And the intraoral sensor will, of course, identify tooth decay in children and the elderly, which is a high population in this county, which is an overall effect for their health, especially elderly, and then, of course, for the children, early dental care. And they will also benefit the non-English speaking patients that are not necessarily in Camas County, but are definitely in Blaine County.
Okay, we have a couple questions, but I think I'm just going to wait till the end. So let's go ahead and move on to Idaho Humane Society.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Tringia Delaglio, and I'm representing the Idaho Humane Society, and we had a really pretty interesting visit with these guys. So they're doing more of an outreach program this year, and they've actually started this program a year ago, right? Basically when the pandemic hit, and they had funding for the first year, but they have realized this is going to take longer than a year. So we basically be the capstone to the funding of this project. And what the project is they're going to provide access to medical care to the Duck Valley Indian Reservation in Owyhee County. So this Indian Reservation is located right between, kind of on the border between Idaho and Nevada, and it's in a really, really isolated area. And what they're hoping to do is get control over the pet population there. So they're transporting animals back and forth from the reservation to the hospital here in Boise. They're spaying and neutering the animals. They're doing any kind of, health surgeries, things that are needed, vaccinating the animals, things like that, and then taking them back to the reservation if they're pets. If they're free roaming, I think they're trying to rehome them and find new places for the animals. They're doing this because it's so rural in that area. They don't have a single veterinary facility or any kind of help up in this reservation. So basically, this has been a problem going on for decades. And the Idaho Humane Society wanted to they looked at different communities in the area because they want to do some more outreach. And they found that this was a particularly strong needed area. And these animals right now, because there's no vet care, if something happens to them, if they're sick or injured, basically they're taken outside and put down, and it's hard. They talk about the mental health aspect of this for the community, because it's that thing that if the animals are cared for, the people are cared for. If the animals aren't cared for, then the people don't feel the positivity of caring for themselves either. Sometimes litters are born and they're taken to the dump or other things. And so by treating this, there really are seeing a huge impact with the reservation, liking what's going on. And they have multiple support within their reservation. So they have the tribal council helping them. The Indian Health Service is on board with this, and they definitely want to keep it going. I think I've gotten off here a little bit, but yeah, the Duck Valley Indian Reservation and the Health Service, Indian Health Service. The other thing why we really liked this is a couple different reasons. One thing we thought was really interesting with this is it's kind of a unique project because it just focuses on the indigenous people of the Duck Valley Indian Reservation. And I think it would be the first time IWCF would fund just an indigenous group of people. The other thing is that we also felt this was a safe investment for our funding, because the Idaho Humane Society is such a well-run and well-established organization. We're positive they're going to be successful with this program, and we don't see any risks of this not happening or not coming through and being finished. And I think those are kind of the top big things I wanted to talk about with this. Oh, another thing that's interesting with this within the Indian Reservation, to show how much they're supporting it, they're pretty progressive in the fact that they've passed a mandate at the reservation to only have 2 pets per household. So they really are trying to get the whole situation under control, because right now they have they have a band of dogs that have gone feral that are running through, they're attacking their livestock, they've bitten children, so they have a lot of health problems from these animals. So they're really trying to get it back in control. And I think that's just kind of a quick rundown of that grant.
Super. So we have a couple questions, and you can keep them coming. That's no problem. But Chris, back to the Camas County, a couple questions around the counselor funding. Is it a full-time FTE position? And then another comment, is it part-time, because it just seems like a really low dollar amount?
So yes, the cost breakdown is $22,000 for the counselor and $8,000 for the dental censor. The counselor will be part-time. And I saw a question about how they plan to sustain it. They plan to bill Medicaid, have a sliding scale for the counselor, and also rural community health services are also provided federal funds because they're rural community services that will cover the counselor, but it will not cover the initial cost of starting the counselor. And I should also note that they have no other funding options unless they get funding from us.
And on that note, there was a question, how will the project look when it's quote finished? Seems like it should be an ongoing project.
Oh yes, they plan on this permanently ongoing, with this counselor planning to stay the counselor for at least 10 and maybe even 15 years. So it's a long-term hire of this person. They're not going anywhere.
Okay.
So, and if I could speak in on that too. So basically this funding for the counselor is, they're looking at it basically as startup costs for it. So they want a full year for this counselor to be supported so she can get her clientele built up. And then they fully expect her to be running on her own after that. So.
How about on the Humane Society program? How will it be sustained after the grant?
So they feel, so because it's being so supported, especially with the Tribal Council and with Indian Health Services, they're trying to come up with a long-term funding project to keep the control of the animals after they get their initial numbers down. But saying that, the Idaho Humane Society has done this in a couple other locations, and they have kind of a magic number of how many animals they neuter and spay. And once they hit that number, then it's pretty controlled. They can keep it under, and they think it's going to take them about 3 years to get through all the animals that are up there. But they foresee it being supported and controlled after that.
Another question on that, is there a potential for veterinary health workers, like a vet tech, VEMs, to be trained within the community at Duck Valley?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. We have no idea. We didn't talk about that, but that's a really good question. It sounds like with the support they're getting from the local area, they would love it if they could get someone like that. But I don't know if there's anything in the plans for that.
Okay. Chris just made a comment, you know, our funding for Cascade Medical Center last year was similar to what we would be funding for the Idaho primary health. So it's a similar type of fund. Question, will the Humane Society finish the project regardless of our grant?
So that's a good question. We asked that as well. And they said, they didn't give us a direct answer. They just said that they have a lot of support with their donors, and they're getting a lot of support from the Indian reservation as well. But the compelling issue is because this is going right now, they basically need the funding right now to get it done. And they left it very foggy that way. But so I'm not sure. I can't say specifically.
And then will the grant from Idaho Humane Society vaccinate animals as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, I think I had one other question on the oral censor's name. It said, didn't the oral censor's name include adult? I think that's coming from maybe Diane, who might have been on the committee. And do either of you want to answer that? Or we could follow up.
It is an adult censor. The magic of it is it's basically the size of a ballpoint pen. It's really little, and it's called an adult sensor, but because it's so little, it's easy to use on children as well. So it's kind of universal.
Okay. I think, okay, yes, that worked. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I don't have any other questions for rural communities. Tringe, big thanks to you for being the interest area chair for this committee. There were a lot of proposals to look through. And again, for everyone who's on the call, just a really good, solid group of organizations serving our rural communities. We're going to move on to health. I'm going to turn it over to Jill Pearl to talk about Lutheran Community Services.
Okay, what this project is to increase client capacity in order to operationalize the service delivery phase. They essentially don't have a operating unit in Boise quite yet. Salary expenses for a professional family coach is what they're looking for. That includes the host family, home screening, volunteer client support and coaching, community outreach to generate referrals and coordinate with community partners, mileage and expenses around tracking data with their program and their partner churches. But essentially what Safe Families is they're a group that gives assistance to families by creating a network of host families to provide respite care to a family in crisis to prevent the need for state protective custody and potential neglect or abuse. The host families are carefully screened, and the screening process is that as rigorous as that of foster care. The parents of the family as well as the host families are paired with family coaches to help all involved navigate the crisis at hand. So like I said, the Safe Families is a program that helps families establish support before they reach any sort of crisis, critical crisis where they would require the services of any federal agents or state agents. The families retain custody of their children and are just put in the care of a host family. In just 2 months, they have partnered with 3 churches that have volunteered to participate, 29 committed volunteers a lot through NNU and a couple through Boise State to work as family coaches. They have 4 vetted host families, and I just heard that they got 2 more, so 6 vetted host families, and that could impact 10 to 20 families in crisis and provide over 1,000 nights of respite care. There is no other agency that provides this sort of service in the Treasure Valley. And one of the side benefits could be the relationship between the host family and the family in need could provide a long-term support and mentorship benefiting both the families. They also carry a couple letters of endorsement from Idaho Children's Fund and just received their endorsement from Idaho Voices for Children. This is a small program without an established chapter in the community just yet. But after their initial evaluation of the Treasure Valley, it was, the word has gotten out very fast. Their phone is ringing even though they're not operational yet. But their head company, the Lutheran Community Services, is a well-established and solid national organization. And there's several established chapters in other parts of the country and Canada and the UK. They have 120 working chapters and have hosted over 50,000 children with a 70% reduction in need for kids entering the foster care system.
Jill. Turn it to Tracy.
All right, hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for listening to us. I just want to say from the Health Committee, both of these grants, the Lutheran grant that Jill just talked about and the Phoenix, what I'm going to talk about, our committee, those 2 were by far ahead of all the other organizations. And they both are just really strong grants, I think. So I'm just putting a plug for the extra one vote health. But the Phoenix, if anybody doesn't know, the Phoenix is a national organization that focuses on healthy activities, mainly physical activities, for recovering addicts or any kind of addiction. So they're one of the few chapters in the United States that actually has a physical space, and that space is located by Corpus Christi and in between Catch and Corpus Christi over on Americana. And it's a really nice gym, and they have and it's not just going to classes; it's a very community-oriented, community-supportive, peer-to-peer support for anyone in recovery. So it's really, they've been around for about 3 years, and they've grown every single year. And Scott, who's in charge of it, he's just doing a phenomenal job. And this year with the COVID, he's doing a lot of statewide online activities that have been really successful. But our money in particular, which he's super excited about, is basically going to fund 10 gravel bikes, 10 paddle boards, and 6 sets of backpacking equipment. So one of the things that all the clients wanted to do is they just want to go out to Quinn's Pond, or they want to go out in the river and they want to paddleboard. So he said that's the number one thing that they would buy. And then the gravel bikes they're really compelling because it's a common, road biking versus mountain biking. Gravel bikes are sort of a combo, so you really can catch both of those segments of people who want to do both of those things, and they are a little less intimidating than either one of those. And then the backpacking equipment, all the tents, filters, sleeping bags, what you need. And then he's going to train 2 instructors, so they'll be trained as a woofer and first aid and a bike certification guy. So if you want to go to the next slide, I kind of touched on some of these things. But what I want to tell you is that one of the quotes from the gals was, it's so wonderful to be able to do an activity, to be able to live life and work on my recovery, but not talk about it, not always talk about the past, not talk about all the mistakes I made, not sit around a circle and be sorry for what I've done. This is just, I can live normal life, and I can do fun things that everybody else is doing, and I can meet other people that are in the same situation I am. So I'm not going to fall back into my unhealthy habits. I'm learning new healthy habits. And I just feel like, the Phoenix, he's applied, I guess he's applied twice before, but he seemed to be a real pro at how to get through our grants process. And I just wanted to mention the health and welfare. I think he got about 10 grand from them the first year he started up, and now his program's been so successful, they're giving him 75 grand. So he's really growing things, and it's his participation level is just, COVID, the numbers were clearly down. We only had about 400 last year, but in the years past, he had about 800 people participate. And as of this year, he's already had 450 new registered participants who have actually taken part of the classes. And that's all over the state. So he's got some great collaborations with other organizations, a lot of recovery centers, corrections. So he's plugging into all those places. And so he's able to do a lot of live stream, class that he's got in the gym, he'll live stream it just like everybody else is doing during COVID. And so he's touching a lot more people. And I think that's it. I don't know if I missed anything in those considerations, but I feel like this is when Jen was saying that we're looking at best projects for the time. One of the things, people talk about, the drug use is just huge. And with the COVID, I know that's gone up for a lot of people. And, I think this is just getting people out in a healthy environment is huge. And we all know, that's what we've all been doing through COVID and our beautiful state of Idaho. I think it's just, the more we can, that we can help people get out, it's a huge game changer for them.
And then I wanted to just clarify, thanks Tracy, thank you Jill. there's a couple points in the chat that I just wanted to clarify. Even though the volunteers are for Lutheran Community Services are primarily found in community churches, there's no religious affiliation needed or connected to families to help or participate. So,
and most of the people that are referred to that program are referred from the school counselors, or they're not necessarily members of the church. They're probably not members of the church. They're just members of the community.
great. And then just another point on the Phoenix that, you know, the equipment that they're purchasing is not for individuals to check out, but it's part of group. They're used in organized activities that the Phoenix facilitates and executes. So
Yeah, the Phoenix will take them out on a bike trip somewhere. So that certified instructor that we're also paying for will take them on the backpacking trip. We'll take them with it. And I also wanted to point out that it is for recovering alcoholics or recovering drug addicts. They need a new community of like-minded people to be successful in their recovery, and that is, you know, that's where the Phoenix really feels the need, and gets them active.
They have a trailer, don't they, Tracy, to like transport the bikes? So they have some of what they need to make this all happen.
And he's just, things are definitely, he's making stuff happen.
Yeah.
And just to plug, like on a lot of these, this is probably, I don't know about for all these grants, but I know that Lutheran, if any of you want to know more about it, go on their website, and they've got a couple of great videos that, will bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah, for sure. Very compelling.
I would just encourage everybody, if you're interested in certain organizations, their websites typically have a lot of information for you guys to educate yourselves.
And then a question from the Q&A on the Lutheran Community Services. Are they doing background checks on the caregivers? And is it really the only service like this in the area?
That's what they found, that there's no other services that offer this kind of respite care without the parents forfeiting their custody of their children, because they still retain custody of the kids. And the vetting process for the families, the host families and the volunteers, it's just as rigorous as foster care.
And I just want to emphasize too that it's a national, same with the Phoenix, they're national organizations. So this isn't just somebody's like trying something new. They've been successful in other communities.
Right.
And we're just these are just Boise chapters.
Right.
Excellent. So that was health. Again, two really great organizations. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Jill.
Health.
And
Really
a big thanks to Teresa Broadhouse. She had another commitment today, but she and Tracy co-chaired the health interest area. Again, a group with a lot of grant proposals and requests this year. So thank you, both of you.
Teresa rocks, by the way. She totally keeps everybody in line.
She really just keeps Tracy in line. For those of you who are out there on my webinar, I mean, I hope you're getting a chuckle out of some of this. So now we're going to lead into financial stability, which is always the group that makes everyone cry. And we'll go ahead because the financial stability, for those of you that don't know, this is our interest area that really funds the social services. And, we talk about housing and we talk about food and money insecurity. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Annette Christensen, who's going to talk about Jesse Tree.
Well, I will. Shall I just start?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for that. We had a terrific committee of 11 members and some really great proposals. And it's really my privilege to be able to represent Jesse Tree. We had a wonderful site visit. And just to give you some background on Jesse Tree, they have been working to prevent eviction and homelessness in the Treasure Valley for the last 20 years. They service Ada County and Canyon County. Currently, they've had really three main programs that they offer. One is a housing crisis hotline that gives information and referrals to people who are in housing crisis situations. And typically they service about 150 families calls a month with this. From that, they have an emergency rental assistance program. And between 2017 and 2019, they were able to help 1,006 families. And of those, giving them emergency rental assistance money. And of those, 97% of them are still housed today. So that's really an amazing number for a group like this. Their third program is an eviction prevention program, and that's people who have eviction court dates, and they provide case management and rental assistance. Well, what they saw through their housing crisis hotline is really a new group of people that they weren't able to help. And those are families who are in need of security deposit assistance. And typically it's a group that's called informally housed. So it may be families that are facing rent increases. They're not going to be able to stay there, or people that are living with family or in hotels, people without contracts or leases that they were not able to service. And they really, the main point of Jesse Tree is to prevent homelessness, to keep people in housing. And so they've seen this need and they're making a proposal to offer this new security deposit assistance program that'll quickly connect people that are experiencing financial crisis or they're at risk of homelessness, to give them that quick security deposit assistance to get them into formal housing. One thing that they have found with housing, it costs closer to $1,000 to keep a family in housing versus if someone's completely homeless, it costs $5,000 to $10,000 to get them back into housing. So that's a really big benefit of Jesse Tree, is that they look to prevent that housing. So some of the strains on these groups, this group that they've seen, this gap housing group, really has come from all the things that we've seen, the growth in real estate demand, in rental demand, has really made it hard. The whole housing market has changed, obviously, in the last couple of years. And also the strains from the pandemic. More people are facing unemployment and issues like that. They're identifying these gap housing, informally housed people through their housing crisis line. And they're finding that these people that need the security deposit assistance, about 62% of them are female and 58% of them have minor children with them. So let's see, the project's asking for $30,000 over a year, and that's out of a $45,000 budget. They anticipate that this security deposit assistance program will help 10 families a month in the initial year, or 120,000 families in the first year. What that money is going to go to specifically is to onboard 2 AmeriCorps volunteer employees, their salaries for 12 months. It would provide training in Portland, Oregon for a training person. They have a similar program like that in Portland. It'll be 2 laptops and some DocuSign equipment. And then it would be developing marketing materials to landlords and property managers, developing the webpage for this program, materials for clients, and actual mailings out. So Jesse Tree has really real strength from the housing crisis hotline in a database. So, and landlord relationships too. So they have noticed that these landlords really also want to keep people in their housing versus going through eviction processes too. Jesse Tree has a very large Google database of available units and partners that they work with. And they're amazing collaborators. Since they get so many people in on the housing crisis hotline, they refer them out to who can help with their housing crisis. Say it's a veteran, they would refer it to an organization that helps veterans. Or if someone was completely homeless, they would refer to a group that helps with people completely homeless. They help with preventing, keeping people in their housing. They're such good collaborators. They're looking to collaborate with the Department of Health and Welfare who keeps a very large database similar, and looking on collaborating those two. So this organization is experiencing a lot of growth for a lot of reasons. One is their new and dynamic executive director, Ali Rabi. She's been there just over 2 years. She has put so many new processes in place. She's streamlined their screening processes, expanded their community housing contacts. She's got a large volunteer pool that mans the housing crisis hotline. She's got strong training programs. And she also has really worked to increase the staffing. There were 2 full-time employees. Now they have 8 full-time employees. She's increased that case manager aspect. So what else do I want to tell you? In terms of sustainability of the program, that's one great thing that Ali has been able to do, is she has brought on a new development manager. And so in the past, Jesse Tree's funding has come completely from grants. With this new development manager, in 2020, they've really seen a big change, so that they now have a stronger pool of individual donors. They're starting a sustainability program. And when we get through this pandemic, they'll be starting events for fundraising also. So this program really is unique for Jesse Tree. It's new for Jesse Tree. It's kind of an innovative program to help this informally housed GAP population. And it's really relevant in this time of tight housing and in our pandemic situation too.
Great, thanks, Annette. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Janelle Wise, who will talk about the Idaho Food Bank, who also wins the award for shortest project title of any grant we had this year.
Hello, I am so excited that I get to represent and talk about the Idaho Food Bank today. This was a stellar project. We were very happy to get a hold of, and we really enjoyed the site visit, every single person. This is very straightforward too. This is a forklift and this is buying the forklift, 100% of it. And I'm just going to basically talk about why it's so important and the need. So this is basically a perfect storm about to happen. Last year, they usually spend about $300,000, or no, it's $200,000 on food. Last year, they spent $3 million. And all of that fundraising did come in because of the pandemic. Yet they're expecting a food cliff to happen, a fundraising cliff to happen in April, and also it's just how it is. The food cliff and the fundraising cliff, everything to be the amount of food that is needed in our community right now and around is 15 times what it was a year ago. So they need more funds, but the biggest thing that the Idaho Food Bank does is provide food to all of the surrounding areas. So they have over 200 partners, and some of these partners show up in just a pickup truck. So they need a forklift that can actually load the food into the back of a pickup truck. And then I guess we're on to the next slide already. But the forklift is used, every single day, all the hours that it's open. This is all about getting food to people that need it. The other reason that this is so important is that, Annette just talked about housing, and it's so important for people to keep their housing. And so the food bank always supports people taking the money that they're earning and pay rent first will supply the food, because once a family is unhoused, like she said, it costs so much more. And so they're really trying to keep people housed by supplying the food. The increase is so much more. And so, this is going to affect, over 170,000 people per month. And it's an urgent need. And the increased demand is very visible in the numbers, in the amount of people coming. I don't know if you guys saw in the paper just last week, there was the huge line outside of just people coming up. And then they are doing food boxes out of the Idaho Center in Yampa. That was 2 weeks ago. So they're in every, they're working in every county that IWCF serves. It's it's just very straightforward. They need a forklift, and it's used every minute that they're open, and every person needs food. So it's definitely the basic need and fulfilling it. Questions?
Great. Yes. So we have a couple questions, or we'll have one for sure. On Jesse Tree, just someone wrote, trying to understand the new component. Who will they be serving that they're not serving now? Is it people who've lost their housing and need help in transitioning before they become chronically homeless?
So they call it people who are informally housed or gap housing. It kind of is a broad group of people. It's people who don't have, at this point, a formal lease. Well, maybe they could potentially. People who are losing their housing because it's gotten too expensive. That can be one thing. It could be people that are living with families, people who are couch surfing, perhaps somebody who's in a hotel. This is somebody that's not been a traditional client, and this security deposit assistance program would help them.
Thank you. Question. Go ahead. Oh, does the food bank have funding for a forklift driver if and when they get the new forklift?
Yeah, they already have a trained driver. They just need the forklift. And I should say, out of, all of federal dollars that are coming in, that's for food. It's not for forklift. And so that's why they applied to IWCF. And we rarely have grants that actually fund every single county that we say that we will fund. And this would go to every part of that, service people in all of them.
All right. Thanks, Janelle. Thank you, Annette. And just another shout out, thank you to Mary Heinsohn, who co-chaired with Annette the financial stability interest area. Again, a lot of really good proposals, a lot of hard work done by that committee. So thank you to both of you ladies. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Environment Committee. I'm going to turn it over to Gail to talk about Ada County soil and conservation. And Gail, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, forgot to do that. We just call it Ada Soil, because that's a very long name. Their pollinator project is an expansion for them. They normally work with farmers and ranchers and large landowners on soil and water conservation. Now they want to expand to include just ordinary citizens like you and I. They want to get ordinary gardeners to bring a pollinator garden into their own yard. And the project will distribute actually 64,000 flowering species chosen to encourage pollinators. Excuse me. The other part of the project that we basically will be funding will be the education of all of these families that are going to plant these flowers. And they'll learn about how to make a pollinator habitat successful, excuse me. Our money basically will fund the education side of the project. We are not going to be paying, excuse me, paying for the flowers, okay? We're going to be funding the education. We're going to do a part-time entomologist that will provide field day education, assist in pollinator identification, and also help with a citizen science engagement. So they're going to, once you get these flowers and you plant them in your garden and through education and everything, then they'll lead you through some citizen science project to monitor your garden and monitor the insects that come to the flowers, and so that they can continue to make this better. some of the compelling aspects of this, it's a very innovative idea because, you know, we have pollinator gardens. There's one that we helped fund by the Garden City Library, the Botanical Garden, and the MK Nature Center. They all have pollinator gardens, and that's great. It's wonderful to have. But they decided the best way really to help the pollinators would be to get this out to the community. People in the community then can participate. You know, you hear all the things, oh, the bees are dying and the monarchs are dying and all these different things. And people go, oh my goodness, yes, this is horrible, but what can I do? Well, now we have something that individuals can do. The project will provide education to thousands of people in the Treasure Valley that will be able to purchase the flowering plants. The district is a well-established entity, okay, and they have had a lot of success with their educational offerings for farmers and ranchers. And so it's a good established entity, and they'll be able to successfully do this program. Something else that's compelling is once after the initial costs of the development, the sale of the flowers hopefully will sustain the program once they get this up and running. The other part that we're going to be paying for beside the entomologist is we'll be paying for the educational program's development and also event promotion and printing of the educational materials. The one of the people that is involved is Josie Erskine, and she was the owner, the starter of Peaceful Belly Organic Farms, which a lot of you know about. And she brings to this project many years' experience working with community gardens. So I think that's compelling for this one. So some other things that to think about is the main populations that will benefit from this project are the native bees, the hummingbirds, the songbirds, the moths, the honeybees, the spiders, the beetles, the wasps, and other beneficial species. So this is actually going to help the environment. If you grow plants for pollinators, they will travel many, many miles, okay, throughout the neighborhood and pollinate, you know, many thousands of plants in the area. So getting as many gardens out there as possible is a real plus. And the last thing I want to say is if you build it, they will come. And if you maintain it, they will thrive. That's all I have.
Hi, I'm Anita Havey, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Land Trust of the Treasure Valley, which has been around since 1996. It owns and manages tracts of land, easements, maintains and collaborates with landowners as well. This is for Southwest Idaho. Right now, they own Harrison Hollow, and many of you may know Harrison Hollow. It's right here in town practically, and it's jammed. I was there 2 weeks ago. I think I was the only person without a dog. But the problem with Harrison Hollow is that it's been loved to death. The population, the visitors through that area, and I misspoke on the presentation or the PowerPoint. It's gone for the River to Ridges trail area. In 2019, there were 1 million users. Last year, there were 3 million users. Now, Harrison Hollow is just part of that, but that's a lot of people. And a lot of that has to do with two things. One is COVID. People are getting out more, and because actually getting out in the nature is a boost to mental health. And people, as you probably have read, there's serious issues with depression, suicide, ideation, and being out in nature is one a very important element. I'm a mental health professional, so that's one very important element in elevating mood and physical conditioning too. But the other part of this is so many people are moving to Boise. Notice the house prices going up. It is because one of the reasons people are drawn here is because we have such wonderful access and easy access to all the wonderful outdoor activities that we have, the rivers, the Harrison Hollow, as a matter of fact. So this money is for, let's see, $21,918 for a year. And what it will fund is a minimum of 1,000 sagebrush seedlings, some of which are being grown now. And they're estimating probably 1,300 to maybe higher than that to stabilize the land, because the land is being overused. And also people love going there, especially with their animals. And it's a leash-free area. But people aren't always as diligent as they need to be in picking up the animal waste. And that can add to invasive noxious weeds. And also it can contribute to the land erosion. But this project is two-pronged. It is the physical part of planting the seeds and erecting some fences to be able to mitigate traveling off paths. But also it's a huge educational component. Some of this grant will go to pay for the portion of the salaries for the project manager, and the AmeriCorps worker who is in the schools and teaching they collaborate with 15 schools in the Treasure Valley, educate at least 400 kids on seed collection, planting and nurturing these seedlings. They hope that they all survive, and then replanting them. So they're learning about the environment. There's a huge environmental education program that's part of this. I don't know how many of you have been there to Harrison Hollow lately, but it's really so lovely, and it's right here. And again, I was the only one without a dog a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was hilarious. It's a rather worthy project, very worthy. I think our environmental interest area had awesome proposals, and these two rose to the top. But they're both wonderful projects, and it's going to be a hard choice to make. But just think about all the people who get to benefit. 3 million people in the roads, River to Ridges area just last year. Wow, I had no idea. I was really impressed. So let's see. Is there anything else that I need to say? Oh yes, they are. Their future plans are they want to hire this AmeriCorps educator full time, because she is so effective in reaching the kids. And also they plan to install some benches along the way. So make some of that land more accessible to some people who just need to sort of slow down a little bit and take a rest, or just enjoy the nature there.
Thank you, Anita.
Mhm.
I do have there's a couple comments that have come through. One was from one of our panelists that said she was over at Harrison Hollow this morning, and it was lots of dogs and people. So I think just a little validation for anyone on the call that hasn't been over there. Couple of questions, Gail, for you on the pollinator project. Is a project like the City of Boise planting trees, where are they giving away flowers for citizens to plant the flowers? And then another question kind of along the same lines, is there one place or multiple places for the plants to be purchased? Just wondering how the monies of the purchase of the plants will be able to be funneled back to the project funds.
Okay, it's different than, I think, than the city of trees, planting trees. The flowering plants will not be given away. They have to be purchased. And we asked them about that. Did they ever think about maybe providing some to people who maybe couldn't afford it? And they said not to begin with, but they're hoping to look at that in the future. So right now, you buy the plants, and you've got 4 different varieties of plants to choose from, and you get 32 plants when you purchase it, and it costs about, I don't remember, around $45. So there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to buy those, but you buy them, and then that will help sustain the program. And they're hoping that if it is successful, if it grows enough, that they'll be able to maybe provide some flowers to people who can't afford. Some of the flowers actually will be set aside in the city of Boise, the city of Meridian, and one other city. Could have been Nampa, I'm not sure. Will actually go to the city to plant in community gardens. Did I answer all that?
I think so. Just another comment from one of our members on the call. Urban and suburban landscaping doesn't usually include good pollinator plants. So this group of pollinator attracting plants is important to diversity, which is a great comment. And let's see. The flats of the flowers come with educational materials. And then a question, if you purchase the plants, do they all have to be planted together?
Just somewhere on your property.
Yeah.
They don't have to be planted all together, no.
I think that's all of our questions on the environment group. Big thanks to everyone on this committee. Lots of good projects. We upticked from last year. We had just a couple projects in environment, and we had, I think, 11 this year. And big thanks to Michael Ward for chairing this committee. One more question just came in. We funded a grant to Bee City USA a couple years ago. Will this pollinator project coordinate at all with that project?
No, I don't think so. At least we didn't ask that question, so I guess I can't really answer.
Okay, great. All right, well, we're going to move forward to education, and I just want everyone to know Janelle Wise, who was on our call for financial stability, is still on the call. You just don't see her picture anymore because she had a student that needed a laptop. So, we're switching around, but she's still here if you think of a question at the end. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our education committee with the Boise Art Museum.
Good afternoon, everyone. The education committee had some really great projects, and so it was hard to choose, but we got it down to 2. And so I would like to present on the Boise Art Museum. So the project that they are proposing, $30,000 over 2 years, is to create a free visual arts education program application for remote learning. And so the program will incorporate their very robust curriculum, visual arts learning curriculum, which they used to do in person. So what happened is when COVID hit, they had to stop all of their programming and none of the students could come in. And so what they did is they reached out to all of the teachers who were supposed to be participating in their program. And that was 262 teachers, over 4,000 students across all of the 8 counties. And so they buckled down and looked into how they could meet the needs of these teachers with the feedback from the teachers. And they found this company called Culture Connect. And what they proposed to do is to create this free visual arts learning application. It's very compelling because they can reach over 16,000 students. They propose to do 4,000 starting in October 2021, and it could reach all 11 counties. It's very creative and innovative. they had to really search out the company to find someone who would do this for them, because it hasn't been, it kind of had to be invented. But Culture Connect will use BAM's curriculum and make a program that is synchronous or asynchronous, and also can be used on any device. It does not require Wi-Fi. So it can reach students that would never be able to come to the Boise Art Museum. And the curriculum that they have already had established, we got to look at it, is really amazing. And it's not just visual arts, it incorporates across the spectrum. It includes, you know, science, math, English. They use the permanent collection from the Boise Art Museum, and they also use local artists such as James Castle's work. And they the curriculum meets national and state standards already. BAM has pledged to keep the program going. There's a $5,000 yearly fee that they're going to incorporate into their budget moving forward. The other compelling things that BAM said is that they will acknowledge IWCF in their literature. So they send out mailers to all of the school districts, and it's free to any teacher that signs up. It services pre-K through 12. The modules will be, they're starting with 6, and there will be 12 modules moving forward over the 2 years. They have a committee of teachers already on board who are working with them on how to get the program to be user-friendly and do everything that they want it to do. And they're Melanie Fales, who's the executive director of Boise Art Museum, is amazing, and she's been there for 13 years. She used to be the education director herself, so she is well versed in how to make the material good and workable, and she is very excited about this program. And I don't know if there's any other questions. I think I've covered it all. But really, what's most compelling is that it's very needed now. A lot of these students will never get any arts education. And the flexibility of the program moving forward is very compelling.
Thank you for that, Karen. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, I lost my sheet. Who's next? Oh, on my Boise School. Janice, right?
It's Janice Holger.
Yes.
Thank you
Janice.
very much. The Boise Schools Foundation has submitted their grant. It's a 1-year, $30,000 grant to expand the Boise Community Schools program to Capitol High School. And the reason that this is really compelling right now is that this is the first traditional high school where they're going to be implementing a community school. They have several elementary schools where they have proven the success of this program across the quads in the Boise School District, where they provide community resources to the students and to the community in which the school resides. So a community school is really both a place and a set of partnerships. It's a space, a safe place for the students to access things that wrap around their education. There's a lot of vulnerable high school students that are facing homelessness. Some of them may be involved in Jesse Tree. You heard earlier from Janelle about the food insecurity that a lot of people in our community face. So this is a space and a place for students in the high schools, in this particular high school geographic area, to access some of those supportive services. And the outcome is that it creates an ability for them to focus more on the academics. So the Boise schools focuses on the academics. They've shown that it reduces detentions, it increases the opportunity for the kids to go on and really be ready for what comes after graduation, not only be successful in graduation, but then beyond. So it really is about strengthening families, supporting students, and it's estimated in this particular setting that of the 1,400 students at Capitol High School, at least a third of them will access it in the first year, and it'll likely increase to more than 50% in the year 2 and beyond. One of the things that's happening right now is in this particular geographic area with Capitol High School is that there's the resources that are around the high school are not as prevalent. And the demographics of the high school are changing as well. You know, if you think about locations for grocery stores and, you know, after school opportunities, things like that, it's not as readily available around the Capitol High School area. So that is also part of the compelling aspects of the community school. So for the students, it's really education, there's tutoring, there's mentoring, there's job training with the goal of graduation and post-secondary readiness for, you know, trade schools or whatever that next chapter in life is for the kids. For the families, you know, it's about parenting services and partnerships and some of the other things that families need to support the academics and the success of their kids in school. So some of the things to consider, this is a proven model that works. One of the things that I really liked about this particular site visit is their focus on, you know, they have some community schools at the elementary school level. They have one at the Frank Church Alternative School. This will be the first one at a traditional high school. But then their focus, the community schools program coordinators, they meet every week. And between the elementary school and the high schools, then they provide services to the whole community. So they act as food banks for families in the community, whether they have kids there or not in the schools. And then they focus on the middle schoolers as well. So they're kind of wrapping everyone in the community around in those supportive services. The expansion targets a new demographic. It's a one and done. It embraces the community. And if you think about the demographics of the Capitol High School area, there's a diversity ranking there too, in that, you know, there's a lot of refugee families and some others in that geographic area that will be supported with this expansion of the community school. When we asked them what would happen if we didn't fund this, they said that they wouldn't be able to open this particular community school at the high school level. They'd probably be able to continue to do some of the mental health services, but they wouldn't be able to open up the space. This particular grant is a one and done. They will be able to fund the community schools coordinator for the first year, will fund the community schools coordinator for the first year, and then build out the space with the refrigeration units for food, you know, all of the space that they need for, you know, the food, clothing, all of the things that they provide in the community school, books, other resources. And then their sustainability model is proven then that the school district and foundation then take it over for long-term sustainability. So all of the other community schools that have been developed are still active and serving the community.
Great, thank you, Janice. And we have one question. How will the program work with the AVID program at Capitol?
Great question. We asked that question. They do collaborate with AVID and bring the resources in from AVID for the kids to support the academics.
And I don't think we have any other questions for the Education Committee. Thank you very much to Janice and Karen for this, and also a shout out to Christine Keller and Marilyn Bischoff, who led this committee. Again, another group with a lot of very, very good proposals. It's it's just some hard decisions to get to the ballot time. Couple of housekeeping things. We're running a little bit. We're going to be really close, but we don't have the bell this year. And so we, if you need to drop off, that's totally fine. And you can always access these slides on our website or also the recording. But if you can hang out till about 5 minutes after, I'm pretty sure we'll be wrapped up by then. So we're going to move on to the smallest but mighty group. Oh, wait, one more question, Joanne. For Boise Art Museum, will the arts program be available to only public schools, or can homeschool families gain access as well? Karen, do you know?
I don't know that, but I assume that they would be able to, because the program is free. The one thing that I didn't mention is that Boise Art Museum actually does send supplies, so that there's an art project that all the students do that goes along with the unit that they're working on. I thought I should mention that, and that's sent to them. So I imagine that homeschools would be able to do it too if they contacted Boise Art Museum.
Great, thank you very much. All right, cultural arts this year, our smallest group. I'm sure everyone on the call can empathize and sympathize with this group here in Southwest Idaho. It's been a tough year for any kind of performance and any kind of arts gathering, but we had a few proposals, a very strong committee, and so I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to the cultural arts group. We'll start with Boise Contemporary Theater.
Hi, thanks, Jen. First of all, Jen, you are the hardest working person I think I've ever met in a long time. So thank you for all of everything that you have done. This has been, as you all know, COVID has just really affected everything, but especially the arts this year. And as we reviewed this particular grant, it became such a multifaceted project that we saw so many benefits and opportunities, not only for local, but national. And so essentially what they want to do is create a festival with an opportunity to bring in what they now call BIPOC, Black, Latino, Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, and multicultural people, to bring in playwrights to help produce this. What they want it to become is an annual festival. And as the inaugural season, this would be an opportunity for IWCF to become the one of the founding sponsors. And as many of you know, that over the years, organizations such as the Santa Fe Opera Festival or the Santa Fe Music Festival, they started small, but they saw big opportunities. And on our committee, especially talking with Ben Burdick, the executive director, we saw the potential for lots of things that could happen. First of all, right now, representation is really a buzzword, but it is so true that nationally and locally, there isn't always representation of people of color. And especially, it's no different at BCC because, BCT, they said on their artistic board staff and even their contributing artists, in their case, playwrights, actors, and directors, they often do not reflect the demographic of the communities they serve. So the idea is to have an opportunity for equality and inclusion, and to create a representation so young people and adults can see themselves in their stories. And one of the concerns that we had was a quick turnaround to have this produced this summer. Ben has already identified playwrights. He has lots of outreach nationally in the community. So he feels very comfortable that they absolutely could produce this. And in conjunction with working with the Morrison Center, who's a very enthusiastic partner, they will be able to do 2 readings of the play. It's going to be filmed So they're hoping to have 3 plays, so that would be 6 in total. We don't know right now with COVID how many people could come in, but they do see the opportunity to have this, some of it to be a live presentation, and then afterwards to have some workshops and having people come in who would offer, if it's a difficult topic, or just even something that people want to talk about, they can bring in experts from the community. But again, it's an opportunity for the underserved communities to see themselves and hear their stories, because they need to see what their lives look like. And, you know, one of the things that I learned in our bias training through IWCF is that we need to present more opportunities for people to see themselves. The budget is $30,000. That's what they have requested. And, you know, one of the byproducts of this is not only the opportunity to work with the Morrison Center, who has the connections to BSUs, who has the connection to classes and people and instructors and people who can come in and offer, you know, their expertise in outreach, but it also helps the city of Boise and the state of Idaho. We have not always, especially in the last couple years, had the biggest reputation as the most inclusive. And, you know, one of the things that we do have an opportunity by helping them bring this festival is it opens up the dialogue of Idaho and of Boise. And, you know, overall, we felt very strongly about this project. If possible, I would love to have all of Ben's questions that he answered provided in an attachment, because it was a masterclass of reckoning of the arts, of timelines, and just how they would actually execute this. And also, one thing I might add is that with everything that is going to be produced, there are opportunities for streaming, not only locally and nationally, but frankly, globally as well. So we wanted to make sure that also, you know, as we, you know, threw our hat into the ring with them, that there would be opportunities for, you know, a family-friendly, you know, playwright to come in. And one of the things that we talked about is they need to get this off the ground. They feel very confident. And then as they move forward in years to come with this festival, that there can be outreach within the schools with some of the content when they bring these playwrights and actors and directors of color. So again, it really across the board satisfies a lot of needs here. The arts feeds our hearts, it feeds our soul, and we need to help feed our arts community, just because, again, it has been such a tough year with COVID.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple of the questions that came in, just because I think they're pretty quick answers.
Sure.
Did the groups that they were wanting to focus on include Native Americans?
You know, they were not specific on that, but we certainly could ask about that.
Okay. And then question, how will BCT recruit playwrights and actors, and will they work with youth on the project?
Again, that's why I would love to be able to share some of the notes that he wrote to us. They belong to organizations throughout the country where they have access to theaters in Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and Minneapolis, who are focusing on this type of work that's just not been happening here in Idaho. So they have a network that they can reach out where they know that there are playwrights who are looking for audiences. There are playwrights and directors and actors who are looking for opportunities. And so there would be, as I said, he has already done the legwork and started to identify those 3 categories.
Great, thank you. And with that, maybe we should just say we saved the best presenter for last. So I'm joking to the rest of my panelists, but I had to give Catherine a little bit of love. So I'm going to turn it over to you for our last Q&A group, Cascade Cultural Arts Center.
Thank you, Jen. I'm Catherine Bearwald, and last but not least, I certainly hope, is the Cascade Cultural Arts Center. This is in Cascade, as we all know, and driving up Highway 55, have gone through Cascade. The Cascade Cultural Arts Center itself is a part of a somewhat larger organization that provides a wider range of cultural services to the Cascade area. This larger group, but in Cascade, largest is a relative term. It provides a great deal of arts education, high school, after school classes in math, physics, all kinds of things like that. It coordinates the local farmers markets. It has had other arts installations in the Cascade area. One of the things that I found really rather compelling about this organization is that it reaches out to groups across the age spectrum. They had a teenage volunteer on the call who was incredibly knowledgeable. They have older volunteers. They have in some of their programs as well reaching out to different cultural and demographic groups, so that it really is a broadly based arts organization in Cascade. The project itself is for what they call a place-making site in downtown Cascade itself. They provided us with some of the early sketches, which you can see and which are available, will be available to you. But with what this project is for, I think it's helpful to think of it as three things, all in one. The first is that it will be an arts installation. You can see that they've got almost all of them have some reference to the scenery around there, which is pretty dramatic. So there is this arts installation itself. There will be a local vetting process. A local artist will be involved to then help to fabricate it. There will be local builders involved. So in some ways, it's a real community-wide effort that will showcase the Cascade area. So the first is this arts installation. The second, as a part of it, is a gathering place for either or for people who are from the Cascade area or for visitors. And as we all know, that there are many, many visitors that go through Cascade. The location of this installation will be at the intersection that they call the Four Corners, which is the busiest traffic intersection in Cascade. It's right there where the grocery store is. In fact, it would be right on they will have a long-term lease, but it would be right on the corner where the grocery store is. So it will have this arts installation. It will also have, as a part of it, a place for people to sit and rest, perhaps, as they are going through town. It may be for locals to gather and have a cup of coffee, but there will be a place for people to sit. Some of the suggestions have been more like these picnic tables One of them is to have these huge boulders that will be hollowed out a bit so that people, as they are talking, will be sitting on boulders from the area. So it's a gathering place for people to rest, to refresh, to talk with each other. The third, and this is a real, I think this is one of the best things about it, is that it will also provide information to both residents and visitors alike of the cultural activities that are going on in the Cascade area. So the Cascade Cultural Arts Center, the theater, any local group will be able to post its information on an information kiosk. It's not a fancy one. It won't be a fancy one that is updated electronically, but there will be the Cascade Cultural Arts Center will have control of all of the postings on this information kiosk so that, as I said, the townspeople as well as visitors will know what is going on culturally in the city of Cascade. The other thing in terms of providing information is that it will be a part of if you will, kind of a trail through Cascade that points out the most sort of important cultural recreational and other activities going on in the Cascade area. There are 12 signposts in Cascade that point you to these various highlights in the city itself. It may be the Cascade State Park. It may be some other things. It is other aspects of the city of Cascade and the surrounding area, so that it will be part of this larger emphasis on getting people to know what is going on in Cascade and participate in the arts activities. What they anticipate is that this will be opened and dedicated on Memorial Day in 2022. They have this small organization has been able to do many things in the town, and I none of the people in our committee had any doubt but that they would be able to accomplish this.
Excellent. I'm sorry, I was kind of back and forth on the slides, but I wanted to give everyone a chance to see the drawings from the Cascade Cultural Arts Center. Any questions from, I appreciate all of you hanging on. I can see the participants and it has not really moved, so thank you. Any questions at this point, I'd like to just take a couple seconds and open it up. Any questions, burning questions that anyone has for either cultural arts or any of the other panelists? Pretty good. Pretty great group of grants, great organizations. So just for everyone on the call, couple things. The ballot will go out Monday, March 15th. Watch for it. You'll see all of the information that you saw today on the slides will be in the ballot, as in addition to some words from the nonprofits to the critical need that they're addressing and just a little bit more of a summary of their request. Encourage, if you know anybody else in IWCF, please encourage them to vote. What ends up happening is the ballot goes out for about a week, and then we kind of have a back end way to see who's voted. And then our membership committee really helps get the word out. So if you could help me and help the grants committee get the word out, I think that would be helpful and fantastic. I want to thank Andrea Roop for all of her help leading our cultural arts interest area this year, and to just everyone who participated in the grants process from A to Z. I'm sad we can't have a celebration, but we will one of these days, and maybe we just move it to the way end of the grant cycle and have a big toast to all these wonderful nonprofits and wonderful members of IWCF. So one more quick quick question or quick comment on Cascade Cultural Arts Center. You know, someone commented it's a wonderful place. It provides a lot of opportunity for art in kind of an art desert type of area. And I think that's a great comment to add to that proposal. So, oh, I've got one more question. Oh, just great presentations, great grant possibilities. So interest area work committee members, thank you for joining us today. Sorry we ran a little bit over, but it's hard. It's so hard to like squeeze it all in because we do want to make sure everybody hears all the great points. So appreciate it. If anyone has any questions after the fact, my information is current in directory spot. You can call me, you can text, reach out to any of these wonderful women that presented today, can easily answer any questions. So with that, thank you and hope everyone has wonderful rest of their week and a wonderful weekend. So thank you, everyone.